Welcome back to the 10-second runoff powered by Culture Media with your hosts, Joe Mitchell, Alec Escaday, producer Magic Mikey Shiaza. I don't know what you just did with your hands. I know that you weren't on camera.
We still don't have them on camera.
I feel like you're just, I didn't do anything.
You'll have a, well, here's the news, right? Starting next week, we'll be live streaming on YouTube. You will have a streaming cam.
I'll be back.
Yeah, you'll have a cam. So you can't do whatever you just did anymore.
I didn't do anything.
No, we'll restart it if you do that.
You're just making it up. We can't restart if we're live.
Not if it's live. Not if it's live.
We can't mess up anymore.
Yeah, no more messing up.
That's your favorite thing to do. That's tough.
Yeah, right on the intro too. Yeah, we already recapped week 2, so we're just going straight into a week 3 preview. No ranked games this week.
Yeah, that's brutal.
That's tough. There's a couple.
It's pretty normal though.
There's a couple must-see games in my opinion, but yeah, no ranked matchups.
Even then, must-see for this week because you want to watch college football. But like there's no can't-miss games.
You have Tennessee, Florida, LSU, Mississippi State, Kansas State, Missouri. I mean, these are all single-digit lines. So North Carolina, Minnesota, even. So there's games with single-digit lines, but yeah, nothing like too crazy.
Right.
Let's start it off with number 1 overall. Georgia gets South Carolina at home. Georgia's a 27.5-point favorite.
Yeah, it's like it sounds so surprising whenever you hear that with just thinking from the past.
Yeah.
Like, man, South Carolina's pretty good. Spencer Rattler and everything. Obviously, we know Georgia's better. So, of course, they're favored. But hearing it now, it's like, okay, that's probably about right, sadly.
Yeah. And look, South Carolina preseason, we figured they'd be a team sitting between that 20 and 25 ranking mark. They got beat down straight up by North Carolina.
Yeah. Bad.
And then they gave up 21 points to Furman. So, maybe they shouldn't be in the top 25 this year. We really did think they were going to be better, and maybe they'll find their stride. But Spencer Rattler is still the quarterback over there. This isn't going to be a close game.
No. How do you expect it to go, though? Do you expect it to be in the 50s and the 20s, or like in the 40s and the teens? Like, how do you kind of expect that?
Georgia's going to score 40 points.
Yeah, I think so too.
Georgia's going to score 40 points minimum, in my opinion. But we did see games last year, like the Missouri game last year. Georgia struggled. They started out slow, kind of took them for granted, and then it almost cost them. I don't think we'll see that, but I guess that's always something to keep an eye on. If I had to put a line on this, I don't know if I'd be all the way at 27.5, but I like a 45-21 margin.
Yeah. The way I look at it too is like, you'd think Georgia's going to score in the 40s, right? I tend to agree. But to me, what that's saying out of both of our mouths is that Georgia has figured it out.
Yeah.
I think they've yet to really figure out what they need to three-peat, to be clear.
Yeah.
Of course, they are, in my opinion, the best team in college football. But to figure out a true three-peat and to where everyone in the country can feel confident saying so, that would be putting a 40 on South Carolina.
Yeah.
And so this would be the big week to do so.
They're 2 for 2 in putting up 40 this year.
Right.
They're 48 and 45, and they've given up a total of 10. So do with that what you will. Now, granted, they played Tennessee Martin and Ball State, so this is going to be the toughest opponent they play. They're going to put up 40 again, and that's that.
Right.
All right, number 2, Michigan. They get Bowling Green at home. A little wider spread here. Michigan's a 40.5-point favorite.
Okay, so I can officially go on record and say this is the biggest spread I've ever seen, actually.
No.
This is the biggest spread I've recollect seeing. It's the biggest spread of the year, for sure.
Michigan, so last year, I don't remember if it was week 1 or 2, but Michigan had a 52.5-point spread against Hawaii.
Yeah, that's brutal.
I remember that specifically because we locked Hawaii to cover that, and they did.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna take Michigan to not cover this one. Although I mean they very well could, but the problem is again, like we always talk about, you have the taking the foot off the gas, element, right?
Yeah. When you get into the 30s and 40s, you get garbage time
30s.
points.
Yeah, absolutely. However, of course, this is Bowling Green. It's not gonna be close.
Yeah. How many yards do you see out of Corum and Edwards?
Oh man.
Give me. You don't have to go individually, but cumulative. How many rushing yards does Michigan have?
I mean, $3 at least.
Yeah, I think so.
150 apiece. If not, one's gonna have 200, the other will have 90, and JJ McCarthy will run for the other 10. Like as a team, they'll have 300 plus.
Talk to me about JJ McCarthy because you were big on him preseason, and he's given me nothing to complain about so far.
That's the key, right? And now they haven't played anybody.
Right.
I love me some JJ McCarthy, man. I think he's the exact example of doing everything he needs to do for a football team to win. He's the best guy in that room for the job, right? And when you have a great team, that's kind of all you can really hope for. You have a great running game. You obviously have a great offensive line. I think he's doing everything he possibly can. But yeah, man, I mean, and again, we don't really have too much of a competition here. So all he could do is continue to, do the same. Roman Wilson has looked absurd. I think he's second in touchdowns, but realistically he's first because Vanderbilt had an extra game. So I don't know, man. I mean, they'll keep rolling. The jury's still out to me because I think for them to make the next push, in other words, winning something in the playoffs, that is, he does need to be better. I think if he's better and TCU didn't get those crazy picks, and I think they had 2 pick sixes in that game, then we see something different. But until then, we'll see. I got to see him against some better competition before I really tell you I was right.
So two things here. I said J.J. McCarthy is not a Heisman quarterback. I'm going to hold on to that for now. I still believe that. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's a Heisman-level quarterback. But with the nature of their schedule, they're very likely going to go into the Penn State game 9-0. I mean, in the meantime, they play Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, and Purdue. So they're going to go into the Penn State game 9-0.
Yeah.
That's going to be game day. It's going to be likely a top. I know Penn State plays a couple games before then. I'd say top 15 matchup.
Oh, God, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying is Penn State can afford to lose one and still be good enough to be in the top 15.
Top 10, yeah.
Yeah. But if Michigan can win that game, then it comes down to the last game of the year, Michigan and Ohio State. And again, that puts them as a either undefeated or one-loss team heading into the Heisman ceremony. So, he's somebody that could be right there. Now,
it's all about turnovers for a guy like that.
And specifically team success.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, with such great team success.
Right. Now, Jim Harbaugh this week made the comparison between J.J. McCarthy and Andrew Luck. He said it's 2 guys that you only get once in a generation. Thoughts?
No, that's horrible. That's really bad. Andrew Luck was an insane quarterback, won Heisman, and deservingly so. Now, I don't know if McCarthy even has a pick yet. I don't know if one of y'all have that right in front of y'all. I don't know that he's thrown a pick. If he goes into week 9 with 1 interception or some dumb shit like that to where you're like, all right, I don't care who they've played, that's absurd, right? Then we have a little bit different of a conversation.
Yeah.
With 28 touchdowns and 1, like something dumb, right? Then there's a conversation to be had, but still not for, Andrew Luck. That's absurd.
Yeah. And also, Andrew Luck was JJ McCarthy
was a generational talent. Yeah.
JJ McCarthy's got 558 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks so far this year. So playing great. Again, they haven't played anybody.
No doubt.
Played Eastern Carolina and UNLV.
Right.
But again, that's great statistics. When you're talking about Andrew Luck, you're talking about a guy who excelled at Stanford and then was an elite NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to say that about JJ McCarthy.
And why did he pick Andrew Luck specifically?
Well, he coached Andrew Luck.
Yeah, but that's still, yeah.
He's talking about quarterbacks he's coached.
I know. But
yeah. And that's super high praise. So, congratulations to McCarthy for, I guess earning that praise, but I don't know if it's quite deserved.
No.
Michigan's going to beat the dog crap out of Bowling Green, and that's that. Florida State, number 3, gets Boston. They go to Boston College. Florida State's a 26.5-point favorite. This is the lowest spread so far.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. I like them to cover. Funny enough, this is my first cover candidate. Dude, Florida State's so damn good at football. Boston College is so damn not. And I don't really think we need to dive into this one, but yeah, I'm actually going to take Florida State to cover.
You have a score prediction? You like them to win by 27 or more, so.
Yeah, I mean, mid 40s to low 50s, and I mean, crazy enough, probably 7 to 10.
Okay, so
I think it gets pretty bad.
So if I set Boston College's score, right, they're over under for their score individually at 13.5.
Under.
You take the under.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you put it for 40 for Florida State, it's over.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's pretty tough.
We'll clip that. Number 4 Texas. Texas versus Wyoming. Texas is a 28.5-point favorite.
I'm going to take another cover. I like Texas in this one big, obviously. Wyoming's not as good as Texas. They're really bad. Wyoming is.
Do we see Malik Murphy in this game?
I hope so. I'd like to see both of them. That's Arch and Malik Murphy. I think Malik's really, really good. So I'd actually love to see that.
Well, in week 1, when we saw the backups, it was Malik that we saw before Arch.
Yeah. I'd love to see them both. But yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Yeah,
Possibly in the third quarter.
I think so as well. I think this one's going to get ugly. And in Texas, are you ready to give them the love they deserve?
Oh, I did last week. Just not Quinn. No, I think Texas is more than that.
Everyone but the quarterback.
No,
right?
who
delivered beautiful balls against Alabama.
And let me. I'll touch on that again. Right. I think Quinn is a great quarterback, possibly elite. The problem is he's so overrated that it's if everybody's here and this is Heisman best quarterback in the country, and I'm like here, I'm not making that jump, right? Like I still sound like I'm like, well, no, everybody's wrong. I think he's a great quarterback. I just don't think he's everything everybody says he is.
But is he overrated or is he receiving due praise?
No, I think he's overrated. Yeah.
By who?
But I think by almost everybody on the front. I think you overrate him, but not as much as other people. My point is there are people that say he's a top 3 quarterback in their country. To me, that is blasphemous. I know you're not one of those people. But is he top 10? Yeah, absolutely. And to clarify, I didn't think he was top 10 before the year started. I think he's won. Yeah, I think he's won me over.
Okay, so I agree. I agree that he's a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not giving him top 3.
Right.
But out of curiosity, who would you put above him?
I put Caleb Williams. Right.
Yes.
I think Jordan Travis is a better quarterback.
Okay.
I think Michael Penix is a better quarterback. I have to look at teams.
I mean, that was brutal.
What?
You just all right, let's move on.
That's not a name you want to butcher.
No.
It never is. Ooh, man, I think Sam Hartman's a better quarterback.
You haven't mentioned Drake May.
Problem is, yeah, I think Drake May is a better quarterback.
Off the top of my head, you named 4 of them. I was going to say Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr., Drake May, Jordan Travis.
Yeah, I mean, and to clarify, like I have him 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and I think that is in my opinion, properly rating him. But when other people have him at 3 or at 2, I'm like, okay, now I'm pissed off about it.
Now, a couple weeks ago, you said you'd take J.J. McCarthy over Quinn Ewers.
At this point, I don't know. I'm still, I don't know. I really don't know yet. The problem is you haven't given, when Quinn had a Blake Corum, he wasn't the Quinn he is now. It was Bijan, obviously.
Well, that's also because he fought the injury bug all year last year.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. But the problem is, in other words, we can't give them the same thing. Because if you give me the pass catchers at Texas with J.J. McCarthy, again, we might have another story. So there's a lot of different things. Now, 5 weeks go by, and what is happening right now, it's a whole different conversation. I'm not saying JJ's better, but that's a rough one for me because so many things are different. Who they play is different. How they play is different. Talking about airing it out. The running backs are different. The O-line is different. My golly, the pass catchers are different. And so, yeah, I have just differing opinions. Nobody's going to like that take, buddy. But no, man, I think he's got everything to be a better quarterback. I just haven't seen it yet. That's all right.
Number 5, USC. They're on a bye. They'll get Arizona State next week, and then Colorado the following. But again, they're on a bye this week.
I would argue Shedeur is better from what we've seen, but he hasn't played anybody. Now
they beat TCU.
Now here's the problem, right? Would Colorado with Shedeur do what Quinn did against Bama? No. You plug in Shedeur and give him, of course, 2 off seasons only to make it fair. I would say he did everything that Quinn did and possibly more. Yeah, with Texas. That's my only argument.
Shedeur threw for 500 yards against TCU, so I'm going to give him his respect. I'm not putting him up there yet.
And just say, right, you don't know. Right?
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, number 6, Ohio State. They get Western Kentucky. Ohio State's a 29.5-point favorite. They are ranked 1 spot above Penn State. I actually had them flipped in our power ratings. I like Penn State a little bit better.
Yeah. Why'd you bring that up?
I don't, just because I was disagreeing
Just
with
really
AP.
good at, no, I feel you. Yeah, man, crap, dude. This is going to sound weird, but there's a true reason that Kentucky is not supposed to lose way worse.
Western
right?
Kentucky?
Yeah. There's a reason that this spread is only, and yes, I say only 29.5. It's because there's a shot, right, that Ohio State doesn't cover that. I'm not going to call a Western Kentucky cover because I don't really see it happening. But, brother, Ohio State needs to kick into gear like yesterday, like 2 weeks ago. We got to figure out this Kyle McCord situation / Devin Brown situation, if that's what figuring it out means.
It's Kyle McCord. So
right.
Ryan Day did say that Kyle McCord's a starter.
But that's my point, right? Like, that's the situation that needs to be taken care of because the pass catchers are there, the O-line's there, the running back's there. Actually, Travion Henderson could really step it up too. I'm going to take him to cover, but there's a reason this is a 29.5 point spread. That's scary because when your counterparts have absurd spreads, other than this next one that's absurdly wrong. My point is when Michigan's a 40-point favorite and you're a 29-point favorite over similar teams, it's a problem.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is Vegas telling you Michigan would be favored if they played right now. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue. But I think they cover. Would not at all be surprised if they don't. But it will be a blowout.
Okay. So, again, Ohio State's a 29.5 point favorite over Western Kentucky. Ohio State, in their 2 games so far, have not beaten either team by 29 or more.
Right.
They beat Indiana 23-3 and Youngstown State 35-7. That's a 28-point margin. And, look, I don't think Western Kentucky is that much worse or better than Youngstown State.
No, I agree. Or Indiana, for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, you got a point. So now,
I think the game will go similarly.
Now, all that being said, I do think Ohio State found it somewhere in that Youngstown State game. Mm-hmm. Marvin Harrison Jr. got the big touchdown early. Youngstown State went down and scored, and it was 7-7, and everybody's like, what the hell is going on with Ohio State? I thought they were going to get going. Right. Well, they got going. They went on a 28-0 run to close out the game, and I think they're finding that stride, and this is a team that I think is good enough to be in the playoffs and potentially win the playoffs down the stretch. I think they're good enough to do so. That's not my prediction,
right? But
they're a team that's good enough to do that. I think they carry that out into this game. I'll actually do like them to cover.
So, funny enough, you're going to like this. I disagree.
Okay.
I agree with what you said first. I am now looking at a 2-loss Ohio State team, possibly
I still hold my prediction.
My prediction might even get worse. I'm looking at them starting to tumble, almost like pretty poorly, possibly being 9-3. We said before we got on air, I think Notre Dame beats them, possibly convincingly, but I'm not going to jump too in it because it'll probably be a 20-minute segment, next week. But they figured out how not to keep the game as close as it can get. But the Ohio State of old, and by old I mean the last 5 years, like even last year, would have done just unspeakable things to the 2 teams they've played. I'm talking about 40 in the first half type stupid stuff, right? So them figuring it out is, yes, 28-point run, awesome. I'm looking at 28-7 in the first type crap. So that they have not figured out what they need to figure out yet, and I think you agree with that front. They're not as figured out as they need to be before they get Penn State and even Notre Dame next week. They're a big candidate to get blown out in South Bend next week, unless they can go 57-6 next week.
Look, we'll have them on upset alert next week, and there's no doubt about that.
Are they going to be favored next week? The line's out. I'm going to rephrase that. Are they favored next week?
I don't know. Mikey, you got
that? I don't know that they're favored next week. If I'm a line maker in Vegas, that's such a bad name for them, but that's what they call them. I have them as a 7-point dog, especially going to South Bend, where it will be sold out, where it will be allowed as shit. Like, if it's me, I have them as a 7-point dog.
Now, I do want to say, do you have that, Mikey?
Oh, what game am I looking for?
Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not paying attention.
No.
I'm playing.
Magic Mike Shiaza immediately is not Magic anymore.
No, but he's Magic. Look, he's telling us.
I don't know about that, but just give me 1 second.
Okay.
But if I was in a coma, woke up, and you were like, bro, that crap you said about Ohio State going 9-3, bro, they were 9-3, didn't even get a New Year's Six bowl. I'd be like, dude, it was because they couldn't really figure out the offense, and you'd be like, yeah, I'd be like, dang, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ohio State is currently 2.5-point favorites.
See, that surprises me.
Yeah.
Big time upset alert, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
But
Me too. They're for sure on upset alert next week. You said you could see them going 9-3.
Yeah.
The only 3 losable games on their schedule are Notre Dame, Penn State, and Michigan.
Yeah.
I think they find a way to win one of them, but I did predict them to go 10-2.
Yeah.
I actually have them losing to Notre Dame and I have them losing to Notre Dame and Penn State and finding a way to beat Michigan. I know that's probably you would say that's probably the least winnable game of the 3.
As we said. Yeah.
But it's also a rivalry game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. Regardless, I do think they find a way to win one of them. All that being said, ESPN or Ohio State is ESPN's FPI #1 overall. Meaning on paper, just looking at power ratings and statistics and who's on the team and all that kind of stuff, they would be the favorite.
They'd beat the average team by more points than anybody else would.
Yeah.
Hey, man, that blows, right?
They haven't
Based
done
on
that
what they've done, bro,
week 1 and
that's
2.
so bad. That's horrible.
Yeah.
That is horrible. You have a team like LSU, for example, who got in their own right blown out and then played an opponent who is much lesser.
Yeah.
But 72-10. Could have done whatever they wanted, left it at 10 for another 4 quarters probably, and scored another 72. Like, it was clear, right? You have teams like where Ohio State should do the same and simply haven't, or anything close. They weren't struggle wins, but they're just not the Ohio State of old. The Ohio State of old also couldn't beat Michigan, struggled with Penn State, and didn't have Notre Dame. We have a better Notre Dame team, a better Penn State team, a similar really good
Ohio
Michigan
State
team.
did have Notre Dame last year, but
I mean, last year, yes. But I'm worried about them. Not that I give too much of a shit, but I am worried about them. So, yeah.
Well, staying in that division, number 7 Penn State goes to Illinois. Penn State's only a 14.5-point favorite. That's crazy to me. We're going to go ahead and lock this. Again, we do alternate spreads. We're taking Penn State -5.5. I feel like that's a very safe play. Illinois gave up 28 to Toledo in week 1, and they lost by 11 to Kansas last week.
Yeah, the good news when you're talking about a team like Penn State and specifically a team like Illinois, when you have a 14.5-point spread, Penn State will score more than Toledo. Let's say they only score 28. Penn State has a good enough defense, and Illinois' offense is bad enough that it could be 28-7, and they still cover the 14.5.
Yeah.
So I understand Illinois is supposed to have a really good defense. Penn State's going to blow them out the water.
And staying on that same note with Ohio State, right? Ohio State beat Youngstown State 35-7.
Yeah.
Penn State beat Delaware last week 63-7.
Yeah. I don't want to tell you what you need to know.
So almost doubled up Ohio State's score and kept Delaware's the same as Youngstown State.
Yeah.
Now, Delaware's a worse team than Youngstown State, but not by much.
Right.
So this is interesting. Keep an eye on the Big Ten East. I like Penn State to cover the original spread.
Me too.
I damn sure like them to cover the 5.5.
Me too. Yeah.
Number 8, Washington's going to Michigan State. Washington's a 16.5-point favorite. Here's the thing. Last year, the situation was flipped. Michigan State was ranked 11. They went on the road to Washington, got absolutely manhandled. Michael Penix Jr. threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. You're going to see more of the same. Give me Washington to cover the 16.5 and Michael Penix Jr. to have a massive, massive day.
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially this year, I agree. And I don't love the 16.5. You think they cover?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Why don't you love it?
Well, matter of fact, I like the spread. I don't love it because I do think they're going to cover.
Oh, so you think you think it should be wider?
Possibly, but I like the spread. I like the spread just because of the talent. That's all.
Yeah.
Because Michigan State probably, I don't know this to be true, and it's probably close. Michigan State's probably more talented on paper. Mm-hmm. They are.
Than Washington?
Than Washington on paper, as far as like blue chip, that kind of stuff.
Are you sure?
Their recruiting classes are always higher. I don't know about the transfer portal.
Okay.
But anyway, that's the only thing that could keep them within 16.5, in my opinion. When you're talking about odds making, you'd have to.
Now, look, Michigan State, they haven't really – look, nobody has really played anybody other than the few teams that have played each other.
Right.
But,
wow. That was profound. I like that.
But Michigan State, they beat Central Michigan in week 1, 31-7, and then Richmond last week, 45-14. If you're going to talk about not – look, those are two solid wins, right? I'm not saying the team they're playing is great. I'm not saying it's impressive that they won. They should have won, and they should have won by those margins. But if you were going to really impress me in those games, you would have had to, like LSU or like Penn State or like Michigan, for that matter, get up to 50 or 60 points.
Yeah, like USC.
Yeah.
I agree.
But no, I really love Washington to win by 20 or more.
Yeah.
And that might seem wide. Again, they only won by 11 last year. But especially with everything going on at Michigan State right now, we're not going to talk about Mel Tucker because everything is still coming out. So we'll see. But with the state of that program right now, I think Washington's really going to take advantage of this game.
I think Washington's better than they were last year. I think Michigan State's a little bit worse.
Yeah.
That's trouble. Yeah.
Notre Dame, number 9, gets Central Michigan at home. Notre Dame's a 34.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I like them to take care of that business this week.
Yeah.
I like what they have going on down there. Kind of like Quinn Ewers. That's how I am as lifetime college football fan with Notre Dame. No, screw them. They're overrated. It is dude, they're really freaking good.
Yeah.
So I think they take care of business in this one in cover.
Especially with how fast they turned it around. I mean, you're talking about a team that lost to Marshall in week 2 last year and flipped a switch.
Incredible.
Flipped the switch. Marcus Freeman's doing an incredible job up there, bringing in Sam Hartman, who is being Sam Hartman all 3
I'm very
weeks.
excited to see that. I'm not excited. I'm glad to see that. That's awesome.
And then not to mention the receiving core, Aldrich Estime. They have a plethora of running backs over there now.
They literally have 4.
Yeah, I mean the secondary is elite. So that's a really well put together team.
Great offensive line.
To me, the question is not if they're capable of winning by 34.5. To me, they're capable of beating this team by 60 points. It's just a matter of will they.
Right.
Will they keep the foot on the gas?
Right.
All right, Alabama, they bounced back. They lost last week to Texas at home. They get USF. They're only a 31.5-point favorite. I know I'm saying only when talking about a spread in the 30s, but USF is probably bottom 10 in the FBS.
Yeah. I don't know Saban's record after losses. I don't know that he's ever. This would be the only caveat. Was Tennessee LSU for Bama last year back to back, or was there a?
There was a game in between.
I do believe Saban is undefeated after losses while at Bama. I don't think he's ever lost back-to-back games. I'm listening.
He has not lost back-to-back games since 2007.
Since Bama.
That was his first year with Bama.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Since he's been at Bama. Obviously, I'm not saying so he wins this one.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna get bad.
Yeah.
I think we could see 4 quarterbacks play. I think they could shut him out. I think that's a real possibility, and I think they could score in the 50s or 60s.
Now
They could double the spread, and I do mean that.
Now the first quarterback that we see play for Alabama is going to be Tyler Buckner.
Yeah.
He's been practicing with the ones all week. How do you feel about that, given the play that Jalen Milroe had?
You have to. Why would you not, right? And I'm not asking you. Right?
Yeah.
But what is Jalen Milroe giving you to solidify that spot? He gave you enough in camp to grab it. Awesome. That means that he's an elite quarterback as far as with what they have going on. Now, if he's not working in the games, it doesn't really matter. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical as to what I'm going to see, but at the same time, I think it's absolutely the right move.
Now, we talked about this a little bit in the recap, and I think we ended up agreeing that Jalen Milroe is the most talented quarterback they have right now.
Yeah.
So to me, is Tyler Buckner going to make a big enough difference between the ears to make up for the lack of talent? And I'm not saying he's not talented. He is very talented.
Yeah.
But he's not the runner that Jalen Milroe is. He doesn't have the arm that Jalen Milroe is. And I'd say they're about the same in terms of accuracy.
My quick answer to you would be yes. I think he will make up for it enough in between the years. I think this could be bold just because we've already seen one of them, and that's Mac Jones. I think Buckner skill set wise is everything Mac Jones was, and we saw how well that worked out for Bama and for Mac Jones. Obviously, we haven't seen it yet with Tyler Buckner because he hasn't played with a team like Alabama has. Now, to clarify, if I end up being way wrong, Alabama's team was much better with Mac Jones than it is right now as far as what they've done in receiving corps, so on and so forth, so far. But, yeah, I think he's every bit of Mac Jones, but I have to see it first.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Milroe's taken a lot of the heat Obviously, he threw the 2 picks in the Texas game, but I think he's taken a lot of undue heat because he also threw for a couple touchdowns that didn't stay on the board due to disciplinary issues. So, I think that could go either way. And just to protect myself a little bit so I don't sound too stupid here, I do recognize that Tyler Buckner's he's capable of running the football. That's how they used him at Notre Dame, all of that stuff. I'm just saying that
he's not Milroe.
In terms of comparing him to Milroe, he's not the runner, and he doesn't have the same arm. He's got them in his own right, but not to the level of Jalen Milroe.
Right.
All right.
Power.
Yeah.
Just because I knew that's what you meant.
All right, number 11, Tennessee at Florida. This is only a 6.5-point line. I know you hate that line.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I think Tennessee will blow them out. Now, blowout, I don't mean 21 to 20. Well, I do. 21 points. With that being said, Florida has played decently. They played decent last week. However, their first week was a blowout. Loss, that is. I do think they could stick in the game a little bit, but I do think Tennessee puts it away and pretty poorly.
Okay. You say it was a blowout in week 1. They lost to Utah 24-11.
Yeah.
And then they beat McNeese State 49-7. All right, let's wash the McNeese State game because it's McNeese State. But if you want to look at that Utah game, okay, Florida was very much in that game early. They had every opportunity to take the reins on that game, and the reason they didn't is because of a missed field goal in the red zone, which again, I know that all plays into it. You can't afford to miss field goals in the red zone. But it was more disciplinary issues than anything. Again, they had a 3rd and short penalty, backed up, now you got to kick the field goal. 4th and short, backed up, again, now you got to kick the field goal, ended up missing it. So there were some things there. Both of those happened to be in the red zone as well. They also forced a 3-and-out on Utah and had 2 guys wearing the same number on the field. Utah ended up scoring on that drive. It changed the course of how that game was going to play out. I think Florida is a little bit underrated right now because of how they lost to Utah.
Yeah, but you also have to think about Cam Rising.
Yeah.
Cam Rising being out is not only big because he's really good, but we found out the disparity between the two is big.
Okay.
So
no doubt.
To me, and this is going to sound crazy, that adds 10 to 14 points to them as well.
Maybe, but let's stay on that. Cam Rising was out, okay? And I'm going to jump to Tennessee just so I can make this point. I'm going to come back.
Right.
Tennessee's given up 2.4 yards rushing on the ground. So their run defense their run defense is great right now. Well, they haven't played a Utah and Florida has. And you mentioned the point that Cam Rising's not there. Well, Florida's still holding the 2 opponents they've played below 3 yards a carry.
Yeah.
So I'd say that rush defense is about the same. And I understand Tennessee's they have great guys in the wide receiver room. They have good running backs. Montrell Johnson for Florida is going to be the best running back Tennessee's played.
Yeah, I think. Well, granted, to back on my point, I can always make excuses, but here they are. Of course, McNeese State's not going to be running the ball. They are down 100 billion to 0, right? I think that helps. And then Utah as well, being in the game. One, you're not running the ball a ton, even without your quarterback. Who is a huge rushing threat, especially in close games. The problem is they're not a running team, really, and never really are, with Cam Rising without him regardless, right? So I think those numbers can be skewed, but I would also say the same for Tennessee. They haven't played anybody that really needs to be running the ball. They're dominating teams, so air it out.
That's a fair point.
I like those stats in that they will both change this game. They'll get worse. But I think that's a little cherry pick. Not by you, but I think that's that. I think we could grab another one that might have a little bit more weight come Saturday. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I on that same token, I think you would take Joe Milton over Graham Mertz 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, although he's not a slouch, but I agree.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I also would. I would take Joe Milton over Graham Mertz. But again, Joe Milton hadn't played at Utah. And we can say, yes, Cam Rising was out, but Cam Rising doesn't play defense.
No.
And Graham Mertz has over 500 passing yards in 2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ask of anything more from him.
Right.
He's everything that Florida's asked him to be and more, in my opinion.
Right.
So, look, I think when you run out Graham Mertz, who's been giving you more than what you thought you would get out of him, and pair him with Montrell Johnson, this is going to be a big test for Tennessee's defense, who was frankly bad last year.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm with you. I do like Tennessee to win this game. I'm not going to go blowout like you were saying. I could see them covering, but barely, I think 10-14.
Tennessee's in an interesting boat because Hendon Hooker was a big part of their success, but they had, a godly receiving core. So with that being said, that's kind of part of it. And I don't know. I have to see it from Tennessee. Kind of like I need to see it from Ohio State. Austin Peay, they put up 30-13. They need to dominate Florida in order for me to feel like I can catapult them back to kind of where they were last year.
Yeah.
With a chance to make the playoffs, New Year's Six, et cetera. Because right now they're kind of not that for me.
Yeah. All right, I don't disagree. All right, let's jump through. There's a couple of these games with no odds, so we'll jump through those, just take winners.
Yeah.
12 Utah's got Weber State at home.
Yeah.
Utah, in a big way.
We already talked about Utah a good bit too just now.
All right, number 13, Oregon. They get Hawaii at home. Oregon's a 37.5-point favorite. I'm going to stay away from the line, but I like Oregon big.
I wouldn't bet it, but I expect them to cover.
I do as well, especially when they're putting up 81 points in week 1.
Although Hawaii might be better than Vanderbilt.
They may be, and Oregon struggled last week against Texas Tech.
Right.
But, again, I do like Oregon big. All right, number 14, LSU at Mississippi State. LSU is a 9.5-point favorite. This is a weird one for me. I think LSU very well should win this game by double digits, somewhere between 14 and 17. They beat a good Mississippi State team last year in a big way. Like I said, they should win this game, but they have to take care of the football. Mississippi State's got ball hawks in their secondary. They are prone to making the mistake and giving up the deep ball, but again, they will pick you off. That being said, Will Rogers on Mississippi State's offense is still Will Rogers, and LSU's biggest question right now is their secondary.
Right.
So this is a really interesting matchup in terms of which secondary is going to give. Again, I like LSU to win this game by 2 or more possessions, but if you're watching one thing in this game, it's the secondaries.
Yeah, I think LSU's the secondary to give. And the biggest reason, 2 reasons. One, because LSU's secondary is far worse on paper and what we've seen so far, as well as I like Will Rogers as far as stretching the field much more than I like Jaden Daniels in that aspect. And so I would agree with you. However, this game could get real close. Angle like this. I wouldn't even be surprised to see LSU drop this one.
Look, I wouldn't either. We already put the graphic out, but we put LSU on upset alert.
Yeah.
I do expect LSU to win, but I would not be shocked if Mississippi State got the best of them.
I agree.
All right, number 15, Kansas State at Missouri. Kansas State's only a 4.5-point favorite. Make that make sense.
Yeah, man, there's a reason for that, right? I'm gonna take Missouri in this one.
Okay.
So I can't. For what I think you were going for, I can't make too much sense of it.
No, I'm just trying to hear your opinion.
I'm with you. Yeah, I actually like Missouri in this one. In a true upset. To me, the line should be bigger than this. Not because of what I think, but because of what everybody else, in my opinion, should think. I know that sounded real dumb, but I think I said it right. I actually like Missouri in this one to win. It's at home. That shouldn't be that crazy. But when you think about when Kansas State plays, Missouri's going to bring as many people as a lot of schools in the Big 12 do, even though it's Missouri, a bottom-tier SEC team. They're going to get up for this game because it's a non-con ranked good football team. So I'm going to take Missouri in this one.
I like Kansas State to win on the road, but I do think the spread's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think it's a one-possession game. Mikey, how much time we got?
About 10.
We got about 10 minutes left? Okay. 16, Oregon State versus San Diego State. Oregon State is a 24.5-point favorite. We locked this game. We dropped that line down to 15.5. I feel great about that. San Diego State is, frankly, not.
They're poor.
They're not a good football team.
No.
And Oregon State's been playing much better than I expected them to. They were one of those teams that actually were tied for the Pac-12 last year, that third place spot. Or no, they were tied for that second place spot and just didn't get the bid to the conference championship game. But DJ's been playing great. That defense has been playing great. The offensive lines are one of the best in the Pac-12, if not the best in the Pac-12. Give me them by 16.
I like them to roll. I agree.
Yeah. 17, Ole Miss versus Georgia Tech. Ole Miss, they found a way to beat Tulane without Tulane starting quarterback last week. They're an 18.5-point favorite. I think they clear that. Georgia Tech is, again, a bottom-tier ACC team, and Ole Miss is somewhere that's right in the middle of the SEC West, which is wide open right now.
Yes.
And to be frank, Ole Miss has the best win in the SEC West right now.
Yeah. Tulane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like them to cover as well.
Yep, I'm with you. 18 Colorado versus Colorado State. Colorado is a 22.5-point favorite. Again, this is the third game that we locked. We dropped the line down to 13.5. Colorado's going to roll this game. They're going to get the best of Colorado State. They should take care of business here. Then they get Oregon on the road next week, and then they follow that up with USC the following week. So they have a stretch coming up, and we'll really get to see what Colorado is. But in the meantime, we can enjoy another Deion win.
I agree. I love it.
Number 19, Oklahoma goes to Tulsa. Oklahoma's a 27.5-point favorite. Love that. I think they win by 32.
Me too. I'll take it. I like them to cover.
All right, another game to watch. 20 North Carolina versus Minnesota. North Carolina is a 7.5-point favorite. They went to overtime with App State last week. Struggle win. Minnesota is going to have a better defense than App State. This is a team that I would feel comfortable putting on upset alert.
That's why I feel like Minnesota is going to win this game.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to take Minnesota in this one. I think, and this is going to sound crazy because this is an odd prediction, I think Drake May has a Georgia Tech game like he did last year. This is a great candidate for a quarterback like that to have a 1 touchdown, 3 pick kind of day, and Minnesota might be good enough to catch you on one of those.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually going to take Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised if North Carolina won. They should win, but I feel like Minnesota is going to take this one.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I'm gonna take North Carolina. Drake May is. You said you could see him having a game like he did last year against Georgia Tech. I think he had that game last week. He had no touchdowns and went to overtime with App State. I think he bounces back in a bigger way, and they get this win.
They're begging to lose, and I think Minnesota's good enough to grant that wish for UNC.
I think that's a great take.
Yeah. So.
All right, 21 Duke versus Northwestern. Duke's an 18.5-point favorite. We saw Clemson struggle early again last week, and I know we're talking about Duke here, but I look back at that week 1 game and just how Clemson, they shot themselves in the foot all game, and Duke took advantage of it. I'm not entirely sure how good of a team Duke is yet. With the way that Clemson lost that game week 1, and Duke won it for that matter, but with the way that game played out and how Clemson struggled last week, I'm not sold that Clemson is the Clemson that we're used to seeing. That being said, I don't know how strong of a win that's going to end up being for Duke.
I think I agree with you.
I think it's a big win. I think it's a top half win, obviously.
Oh, huge, yeah.
Obviously. But that being said, I don't know if I'm sold that Duke is a top 20 team in the country. And they're not. Right now, they're only ranked 21. I mean, they're right there on the edge, bro.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if they're a top 20 team.
But I think they cover this game, 18.5 over Northwestern, because Northwestern might not be a top 100 team. No, I'm for real. So
They certainly should.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Miami is playing currently. So
They are currently up 41-0 at the start of the fourth quarter.
I don't know what the spread was.
there was no
none.
odds.
He said it was the start of the third quarter. They're at 41.
He said start of the fourth quarter.
Start of the fourth quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Miami to win. I'm going to probably take them by more than 41.
Yeah. I like that.
I'm going to take Miami by 50.
I'll agree with you there.
Okay. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, 23 Washington State versus Northern Colorado. Again, no odds here. Washington State got a big win against Wisconsin last week. They're going to add another
us.
one.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible.
They're going to win another one.
Yeah, bad. Too.
All right, 24 UCLA versus North Carolina Central. No odds here. Give me UCLA.
shot here.
This is one of those games where you go out and you let Dante Moore shine.
Yeah. Let him throw for 6.
Let your rookie
Yep.
let your freshman quarterback go out there and get really comfortable with his offense and in meaningful game situations.
I agree.
25 Iowa versus Western Michigan. Iowa's a 28.5-point favorite.
They're not going to cover that.
Cade McNamara has been playing well.
I'm happy for him. I don't know that they cover.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I think Iowa's improved this year.
Yeah.
In a big way too. Let's see. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
While you're doing that, I'm going to run through these locks real quick just to reiterate.
Okay.
So with the locks, alt spreads, every week we try to build a parlay to get to plus 100 odds. Last couple of weeks has been a little bit higher. We are 7 for 9. If you were taking them individually, that sounds really awesome, but we are marketing them as parlays. Bet responsibly, obviously, but this week we have Penn State minus 5.5. That's down from their 14.5 point spread. We feel really good about that. That's minus 330. We have Oregon State for minus 15.5. That's down from their 24.5 point spread. Feel really good about that based on who they're playing. We have that at minus 390. And then finally, we have Colorado minus 13.5 to keep rolling over Colorado State. Game day's there for whatever reason. But yeah, we feel really good about that as well. So.
Also, we do power ratings every week where I put together my top 10 power ratings. Alec puts together his top 10 power ratings. But we would love to get to a point where we could pay to get a model built, a betting model that we would build our power ratings around and build our locks around.
Right.
So if you want us to help you, if you want to help us help you in building those parlays, sub, because the money that we would be gaining would be going towards paying for a model. That being said, I said Iowa's improved this year. I do believe that to be true. That being said, they beat Utah State 24-14 in week 1, and they beat Iowa State 20-13 in week 2. They have yet to score the 29-point mark that they would need to cover the spread.
While shutting out, yeah.
I'll take the under.
Me too.
Or I'll take them not to cover.
But I'll also take the under.
I don't know what the over-under is, but I'll take the under on that as well. Mike, are you looking something up right now?
The under.
Okay. Yeah, let us know what the point total is there.
The over-under is 42.
42,
God,
give me the under all day.
I'll take it for day. We might lock. No. But I'm going to take, I'll bet that one. Somebody,
right.
One of y'all remind me.
All right, that's all we got for this one. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll be back Monday for the recap. You won't be here. You won't be here next week.
Yep.
But we'll still have a week 3 recap and a week 4 preview. Appreciate y'all.